Host the real Ed Oliver, and today just want to talk about Deni Avdija and some updates about his working out with Drew Hanlen this offseason, and to get to some reasons why Deni Avdija can make a leap and who do I think will start at the small forward position. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, Wizards fans? This is your host, the real Ed Oliver. I just want to thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. Today, I just want to talk about Deni and his workout process with Drew Hanlen so far. He did an interview, or Drew Hanlen did an interview with a newspaper, a media source from Israel. So they got some context with what Deni's been working on in the process, why Drew Hanlen decided to work out with Deni Avdija, what was the prerequisites, and whatnot. And Drew Hanlen definitely gave some insightful information on why he's been working out with Deni and what they've been doing, what they've been striving to improve on with Deni Avdija over this offseason. I want to talk about some things that I see, some numbers that I pulled that could show that Deni could make a leap. And then to answer a mailbag question, somebody also asked, who do I see starting at the small forward position for the Washington Wizards this upcoming season? So I do want to read some quotes. This is from Drew Hanlen, who is the personal trainer for Bradley Beal, Jason Tatum. If you guys don't know who he is, Kelly Oubre. He's worked out Joel Embiid. It's called Pure Sweat Fam. That's the company that he has started his brand. Started out working out with Bradley Beal in St. Louis. He's from St. Louis as well. Worked out Bradley Beal. Worked out Jason Tatum. So he's got some big fish, some big guys. excuse me, on his list of guys that he's trained. So I'm just going to do, it's going to be a lot of reading some quotes here just to start off, just to get some context, let you guys know, keep you guys in the know what's going on with our young guys and our young gun and Deni Avdija. So this question is, it starts off, when were you approached about Deni Avdija? Did you agree right away, or did you take some time to think about it before reaching a decision? Drew Hanlen quote went on to say, it took some time until I returned an answer. I made some phone calls with people who are close to Deni, and that's in order to understand how he is as a person. I talked with the Wizards management, with his teammates, with people I knew that know him, and with an Israeli developmental coach, Yogev Verdugo. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name. I wanted to know everything about Deni as a player and as a person, and I felt he is one of those players who are yet to live up to their great potential. I wanted to wake him up so he could become the player everyone thinks he could be. Another question is, what did Bradley Beal tell you about Deni? Quote, that no one has ever pushed him forward hard or trained him well. He told me that Deni has quote, that no one has ever pushed him forward enough or trained him well. He told me that Deni has tons of potential and he could become an excellent player, but in order for it to happen, he would have to improve his shootings and become more stable mentally. So that quote there from Bradley Beal was somewhat telling. You see some of the games that Deni had where he was in a slump, where he was went cold from the 3-point line. His rookie season, he went for cold from the 3-point line in certain stretches. And then this past year where you saw, he was staying in the gym, the Golden State Warriors gym at like 11 o'clock or midnight, staying after games. There were games where he had good defensive games, but he just wasn't knocking down threes, or he was missing layups and missing bunnies, and he would stay after games. You can see him putting the work in, and saying that he hasn't been pushed hard enough yet is intriguing. I know Deni is a hard worker. You see a lot of the social media videos and whatnot. You don't want to get caught up in social media videos, but saying that he hasn't been pushed hard enough yet is definitely something to look at and think about there. Deni's been training his whole life, so I'm hoping that Drew Hanlen is a guy that can push him and get the best out of him for sure. The next question is, have you followed Deni before you began working together? Quote said, I didn't miss any game of Bill's career, so I have watched him a lot, talking about Deni, but I didn't watch him on live TV in the second part of the previous season because Bill got injured. I really wanted that Will to return to being an aggressive and highly self-confident player that he was, that is playing strong on the court. I knew he had to improve his shooting beyond the art, because if you can space the offense in the modern basketball game, then you'll get more minutes. That's the biggest key for Deni. In addition, I wanted him to know how to take advantage of his size and athleticism on both sides of the court. So Defensively, what I see from Deni, I think he's doing a good job using his length. He's guarding 1 through 4. Him and KCP were our best defenders. He was our closing defender in the beginning of the season, guarding Brandon Ingram, guarding Jimmy Butler. There were times Giannis, Brandon Ingram. There were some big games where Deni had to step up and guard guys who are MVP candidates. Giannis is an MVP candidate. Jimmy Butler is a great two-way player. Has been a leader on a team that has gotten to a championship, the Miami Heat in 2020, and they almost got to the championship again with Jimmy Butler leading that team. So these are some big guys that Deni did a great job guarding and showed off his versatility. Offensively, the physicality, I want to see him finish through contact and finish layups and finish above the rim, the athleticism as well, where he has to get into the weight room for sure. How many training sessions did you have with Deni is the question. Drew Hanlen says, quote, "We practiced for 3 consecutive weeks. Now he is in Israel in preparation for the games with the national team. And I hope that we'll keep working afterwards in the U.S. with a few weeks remaining before the start of the season." So Deni will be playing overseas for Israel for his country, which is awesome. I do wish he would have played in the summer league. Same thing with Corey Kispert. I think they definitely could have benefited from the summer league. You know, you see a lot of guys that played in the summer league. Trey Murphy played in the summer league. Jonathan Kuminga played in the summer league. Moses Moody. A lot of guys played in the summer league. And I agree with Richard Jefferson saying that guys definitely should have played in the summer. If you're a rookie or a second-year guy, you need to improve in your game, and I think Deni definitely could have benefited from that. So I do want to watch and see how he does play in Israel overseas for the end of this summer. So before I do get to some more quotes here, this episode, I just want to talk about I want to bring up some numbers about Deni and his shot chart. And he actually got some numbers show that he got to the rim and finished a little bit better than what I thought, because I know he missed a good amount of layups. He struggled from 0 to 3 feet within the rim, shooting 63% from 0 to 3 feet within the rim. There's some numbers that I found that are telling that I think Deni can be a strong finisher around the rim and be better creating a shot for himself. But before we do get to that, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so another quote that I found pretty interesting from the Drew Hanlen interview is Avdija talking to you while he is in Israel? Does he continue to keep asking you questions and learning from far away? Drew says, yes, I've sent him training programs, so he is working on them alongside one of the Wizards coaches that flew with him to Israel while also practicing with the national team. Another quote is, which NBA players were working together with Deni? He says Tyler Hero was also here at the same time, but Deni worked mostly with Tyrese Halliburton from the Indiana Pacers and Kelly Oubre from Charlotte. So that's good competition. Tyrese Halliburton was also drafted in that same class as Deni Avdija. Tyler Hero is another great young player. So it's good to hear. It's good to hear that these guys are definitely competing. I like to hear that. So another question is, from what you got to see and hear, what do other NBA players look at Deni Avdija? Quote says, it's difficult to see because we are in a very early stage of the summer and the competitive games between players only began at the end of July. In the beginning of August, I didn't hear what they had to say about Deni. A main question here is, what did you focus on practice with Deni? And then Drew Hanlen quote says, first of all, shooting. This is me talking. Shooting's going to be big for Deni. That's going to be a swing skill for him to be out there. He is going to be competing with Will Barton for that 3 spot. Kuz could play the 3. Rui could play the 3. Rui improved from the 3-point line last year. Will Barton was a 37% 3-point shooter. He's a 37% 3-point shooter for his career. I know it's not ideal for Will the Thrill to start at the 3, but it's going to be a swing skill. And if teams don't have to go out there and guard Deni, in the fourth quarter when things get tight, then, the other guys may have to play. You may have to put Rui at that 3 or Will Barton at that 3. Because Deni, he's going to have to be a threat out there. And it will be easier for him. Teams are going to be doubling Brad. Teams are going to be doubling Kristaps Porzingis. And you were able to see how many open shots Kristaps was able to create because defenses were really really bracketing him and throwing double teams and shifting their defense towards Kristaps Porzingis. So one pass from Kristaps, it was a hockey pass. You throw it to Tomas or whoever, and then Tomas would throw it to another open man. It would be an easy assist for Tomas getting an open three for Rui or Deni or Corey Kispert. Drew Hanlen goes on to say, first of all, shooting. We did some small changes to Deni's technique. I like Deni's form. This is me talking here. I like Deni's form. I don't see anything wrong with it. I know there's a dip in it, but I think the form is good. It's not a clink. It's not Sean Marion. It's not Michael Kidd-Gilchrist at all or anything like that. I think he has a solid form. It's just the touch is not there at all with the shot. So his shooting will become more fluid and clean. A lot of times he was releasing the ball and not bending his wrist enough. And simultaneously, he was laying too much back in his shot instead of jumping more forward with momentum. We focused on his drives to the basket and finishing around the rim. We have still a lot of work to do when it comes to driving from the left side. But overall, Deni is no doubt on the right path, especially when it comes to his shooting that did improve. Another question is, what impressed you the most about Deni Avdija at practice? A quote from Drew Hanlen says, I really love to see how he improved his mental toughness in 3 weeks. He managed to cope with the tiredness and reaching some new highs emotionally and mentally. A lot of it is going to be confidence for Deni. You could see sometimes that he lost his confidence. He would put his head down. If he missed a layup, he would put his head down instead of running back. Sometimes he does complain to the refs a little too much. I do want to see that get out of him. Just keep playing. I know he likes to body up and be physical. They weren't calling it in the first half of the year, and then things got later. The Stars started complaining about the physicality and people not being called for fouls. So I thought that it affected his defense a little bit. But I think Deni just needs to keep his head up for sure. If he does miss a shot, next play. Another question is, what surprised you the most about Deni Avdija during the practice? He says, Drew Hanlen says, there weren't too many surprises. I did my homework. The only thing that did surprise me was his humbleness. Before Deni entered the league, some scouts claimed he is arrogant, but I felt he is the total opposite. Wow, I did not know that. I would not think that Deni was arrogant at all by looking at and just seeing how he interacts with people from afar. Quote, I want to see him more comfortable in himself. I don't know if he lost it at the beginning of the NBA just grew up a bit. Felt he is the nicest person ever. So, yeah, I do want to see Deni get more mean. And I think he needs to get more aggressive and be mean and be meaner out there on the court. Another question for the Israel audience. There's Israeli audience. It seems as if before Deni's moved to the NBA, Avdija felt more comfortable dunking on other players as he did in the EuroLeague on Gigi Datome. I'm probably mispronouncing his name. Could we expect now to see the same approach in the best league in the world? Question mark. Quote, Drew Hanlen says, I would be very glad to see it. As I said, Deni keeps on working on his driving, and he is on the right way. He is so athletic, and I told him that he has to use it to his advantage. The main thing I was trying to do was improve his mental aspect. So I do think Deni did take another step in the right direction in the NBA. So I'm going to bring up some quick numbers here that I found. This one's from a Basketball Index that did show that Deni really did improve on his shot creating and getting to the basket. So this is from Basketball Index. Rim shot creation is our stats showing a player's abilities to generate self-created attempts at the rim. Guys that are included on the list is Ja Morant, Josh Hart, Deni Avdija, and Dillon Brooks are the top 5 players in rim shot creation growth from last season to this year. So it shows, and I think in the second half of the year, you remember when Deni did the 2 small gesture moves like that, getting to the mid-range, that one dribble, getting to the basket. Now, I know he's still improving on the left hand, but I did see in the second half of the year that he was able to create a shot for himself and get to the basket and create around the rim. Now, he did start to finish better in the second half of the year as well. Now, defensively, he has a lot of good defensive metrics going his way for sure, but I'm always intrigued when I find the offensive metrics for him. So Deni converted on 52.5% of his twos this season, including a 49.3% clip on drives that highlighted a brew of physicality and speed. This is from Bleacher Report. So 49.3% clip on drives. That's a pretty good clip. That's better than what I thought. So 52.5% on his twos this season is solid, which is about average, league average. So that does intrigue me there. If he can improve on that, improving the athleticism, getting in the weight room, finishing around the rim, and off of a standing jump as well, just the quick leaping, I think that's what he really needs to improve on. And of course, 3-point shooting. So defensively, he's been great. Deni graded out as the 4th best player in the NBA as expected points saved over the last season. So he's in a class of Rudy Gobert, Al Horford, and Klay Thompson, and Gary Payton II. So those are the top 5 guys. Deni was 4th on expected points saved over the last season in 2022. So those are some numbers there, and I like what I'm hearing from Drew Hanlen and Deni Avdija working out with Bradley Beal. Now, Bradley Beal, granted, he hasn't shot the three ball well. He didn't shoot the three ball well and worked out with Drew Hanlen. So we'll see how it goes. But I do believe in Deni. I do think he can make a leap. Still young, working on it is going to be playing in Israel. I'm going to try my best to find those games and react to those games overall and bring you guys, talk about his performances in those games on the podcast as well. So just want to talk about Deni pretty quickly because that's been the buzz after that interview. So, but I'll just who do I think is going to start at the 3? I have Will Barton starting at the 3. The reason why is because I think Wes Unseld Jr., just the familiarity with him and the Nuggets guys, Monte Morris and Will Barton. Now, is it ideal? I talked to Adam Maris from Locked On Nuggets, and he said defensively that a lineup of Morris, Bill, and Barton, that they would get torched defensively. Now, the only thing is that, Deni has to work on his left hand and finishing. Rui has to work on moving his feet defensively. Will Barton is an established veteran. He brings more playmaking to the roster as well as, he was able to play making average 4 assists per game, getting the ball to Jokic and other guys. Will Barton can shoot the 3 as well. He can space the floor. Defensively, I could definitely see some problems there, some mismatches there. It's not ideal. But like I said, Will Barton is a guy. He's a constant professional, constant pro. He brings some athleticism. He brings some pop as well. Would he be better suited as a 6-man, just an explosive scorer coming off the bench? I think that would be the best. In a perfect world, on a championship contender, I think that would be his role. But for this Wizards team, I see Wes Unseld Jr. starting him. And maybe it's not about who starts the game, it's about who finishes. You could interchange and have Deni at the 3, start at the 3 for defensive purposes, but he has to work on his offense. And you could have Rui start at the 3, but he has to work on defense, on sliding his feet, moving his feet, and offensive awareness, off-ball defense as well. But Rui really improved on the 3-point line. There was in the 2020 season, the 2021 season, Rui was one of our best defenders. He was the guy guarding Anthony Davis. He was one of our better defenders. So it was just really weird to see how Rui fell off and dropped off. But it's going to be a competition. I'm hoping one of the young guys can grab the bull by the horns and compete with Will Barton, whoever's going to compete for that 3 spot. Could it be Kuz with a big lineup with Gaff and Porzingis, and then Kuz at the 3, Bradley Beal at the 2, Monte Morris at the 1? Could Kuz start at the 3? So it's a couple lineups that you could throw out there. But if I had to guess, kind of thinking in a Commanders way where Ron Rivera likes to bring in his Panthers guys, I just feel like Wes Unseld Jr. is bringing his Nuggets guys, and he definitely feels confident, has comfortability and confidence in those guys for Will Barton to start. And KCP, remember, started at the 3. So they're not, the Wizards front office or coaching staff, they're not really looking at the 3 as the typical 3 that we think about. A guy who's like 6'7", starting at the small 4 position. The Wizards don't really have a natural 3, and it is positionless basketball. So we'll see how it works out. But I think Will Barton will start it at the 3. I think just the athleticism he brings, the pop, the physicality, and the aggressiveness. He is more aggressive than Deni and Rui at this point. So I do think they can learn from Will Barton being more aggressive there. So, but a few quotes. I promised I would talk about Monte Morris and some quotes that he said. One quote that stood out to me from Monte Morris was talking about Bradley Beal. I've always thought that he was, quote, I've always thought that he was, if not the best 2-guard in the league. I've been a big fan of his game since I wasn't even in college. I think we're going to be a very scary duo. I know he's excited. I'm excited, and I can't wait to get to work. So I think this is good because Monte Morris pumping up Bradley Beal. I think we've heard this before. It's the honeymoon phase right now, but I do think that Monte Morris is going to be a good fit next to Bradley Beal. He realizes that, hey, Brad's the best guy on the team. It's not going to be my turn, your turn kind of thing like last year where it was just a clunky fit with the point guard and shooting guard position with Brad and the point guard we had last year. So I just feel like Monte Morris is a guy that doesn't need the ball in his hands, has a high assist to turnover ratio, is going to fit next to Brad, knowing his role, knowing that Brad is the best player on the team, Brad and also Porzingis. So I like hearing that quote right there from Monte Morris, knowing his role, running the offense through Brad, and I think they're going to be a better fit this year. So another quote is Monte Morris, I'm looking, my assist numbers should definitely go up with the talent we have and me being able to make more. In Denver, we ran a lot through Nikola to start the offense. I'm looking to up those assist numbers and make everybody be happy when they're on the court with me and have fun doing it. I'm a guy who definitely likes getting my teammates going on both ends, so I'm looking forward to that. So that's music to my ears there. We're getting a point guard, a pass-first point guard. That's what Wes Unseld Jr. wants. That's what Tommy Shepard wants, and I think they're getting that in Monte Morris, a guy with a high assist-to-turnover ratio, looking to get guys set up and get guys comfortable and get in their best spots. The quote that I liked from Will Barton is that the favorite player, the player that he's looking forward to play with the most is Big Gaff. He talked about Daniel Gafford, a guy that he can throw lobs up to. So I liked hearing that a lot too. A guy calling him Big Gaff. And when Will Barton gets to the basket, he gets stopped. He said he's just going to throw a lob up to Daniel Gafford. So I'm excited to see that. So, all right, you guys. I just want to thank you guys for listening and making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. Now, for your second listen, get up to date on the latest news and rumors in the NBA in just 30 minutes. Every day with Locked On NBA. Locked On NBA, your daily NBA update in just 30 minutes. I want to thank you guys for listening, and make sure you guys subscribe to Locked On Wizards on YouTube and hit the notification bell. Hail to the Wizards. Peace.